Serious, graveyard shift workers of Reddit, what is the weirdest or creepiest thing you experienced while on the job? Pigeon loose in a library, crushed by a dictionary dislodged, had to throw the book away. So I used to do graveyard security at an ER. I had just started the job when this happened. One night, I was on break and crossing the empty hospital parking lot to walk over to the 7-Eleven. Out of nowhere, this hatchback starts revving his engine from across the lot. Then it screeches forward, heading right for me. I'm like trying to run serpentine and get over a curb into the street. I'm legit scared I'm going to be ran over by some homicidal wacko. I'm about 30 yards from the curb edge when the car pulls up alongside me. That's when the passenger door flies open and this dwarf woman with blonde hair hops out and starts chasing me. She's yelling, "Hey, you, what are you doing? Come here." This is all kinda nope for me and I keep running with this little person chasing me. Then the driver's side of the door opens and out pops fellow security guy, Ted, laughing his head off. He introduces the little person woman as Sue, his girlfriend, who is also now laughing. They go on to explain that they do this to all the new guys. "Sue, if you're now there, nothing but love for ya. Ted, I still kinda hated you. I feel like this could very easily have turned into you beating the crap out of Sue before Ted could explain." So I was working at an oil refinery in India, doing the always fun 6 PM to 6 AM shift. We would do actual work until around 9 every night, then screw around and just make sure everything stays stable. Well, around 2 AM the compressor tripped. What the frick? Great, the whole plant is down. We check and see there was no reason it happened. No high temperature, PDI, vibration, etc. Okay, these things happen every so often. Whatever, let's get going again. Next night, same thing happens. This goes on for 4 days or so, and we're getting chewed out by Oleg, the sadistic chief who famously berated an unmarried Indian man for being a virgin, and would beat people with bamboo sticks. Really excellent human being. Luckily we were doing commissioning stuff, so losing production wasn't a freakishly huge deal, only a moderately huge deal. If it was Starbucks it would be the tall pumpkin latte of disasters. You know, delicious, but at least it wasn't fiend. So me and Pillai start talking, and we decide to take one of the security cameras and turn it onto the compressor. The compressor trips yet again. We go to the security room and get the guard to let us watch the video. It's boring. It's an oil refinery in India in the middle of the night. Some lizards crawling around. A few giant flies go by. Then suddenly we see a dark figure approaching. Maybe 3 feet tall and walking with a hunch. It goes up to the compressor and starts turning some dials and pressing some buttons. The compressor trips and it scats out of the area. Oh, but this was no dark spirit from Nolep. It was a goddamn monkey. The solution: they hired an India boy to sit there at night with a cricket paddle thing. I am a nurse in a nursing home and I was working 10p6er, and this one particularly feisty old lady would always tell me that she hated me and was going to haunt me. Well, for an entire week after she died her call light kept going off when the room was unoccupied. Freaked me the frick out. It had never done it before and had no signs of being tampered with. I'm the overnight desk at a small hotel, and I've been doing it nearly 6 years. If I were a sim, this is level 2 of the slacker track. Mostly a very, very boring job, but once in a while. So my hotel is on the waterfront, and the dumpster is on the far end of the building, near a crabbing wharf. I'm going out there one night to take out the lobby trash. It's dark as a barrel and I do things out there mostly by touch. So I go to lift the dumpster lid and a dinosaur screams in my face. Great blue herons are terrifying. Terrifying birds in the dark. When they're standing above you flapping their wings because you just upended the surface they're standing on and snapping their knife face at you while making deep screaming noises. This heron and I had other encounters. Once, he was inside the recycling dumpster when I opened it. Frequently, he dropped rotting fish, large fish, off the roof to explode all over our front patio. Once it was a good sized salmon. Once he even got into an empty guest room during a storm, and I had to herd him out, or he'd just stand outside and make horrible dinosaur noises. But he finally vanished last winter and I thought I had outlasted him. Maybe I did, but I have a new one now, and he introduced himself by standing right outside my patio door, stretching his neck to be at eye level with me, and shrieking, holding my gaze, "Frick you, birds. Herons aren't even supposed to be nocturnal." Aside from demon birds staying up all night just to screw with me, my hotel has a few ghost things and I have had regular problems with sleepwalkers. Men of Reddit who sleepwalk, why do you sleep nude? I work at Subway. The guy who does graveyard shift 10 PM to 4:30 AM was sick, no one else could fill in. So I had to work 12 PM to 4:30 AM, so a very long shift. At around 2:30 AM a construction worker comes in with his friend, orders a sub, completely normal. He finished his sub and leaves with his friend. 20 minutes later he comes back with what I assume was coke. He starts snorting it on the table, then sits there staring into space. I'm watching him on the camera as he was a big guy and I didn't want to confront him. I go back to cleaning. 5 minutes later I hear loud noises. I look at the camera and he's kicking the bin around like a football. I go to the counter and politely ask him to stop. He gets up and leaves. 10 minutes before I'm about to close he comes in and falls asleep at a table. I shake him to wake him up but he's either too stoned, tired, not listening, so I tell him I have to close the shop and he walks out without saying a word. 2 days later he comes in again and I made his sub. He never once apologized for doing drugs and kicking the bin in the store. Made a pause to drink some coffee at 3 AM. Went outside and walked a bit on the sidewalk while sipping on my hot as frick black coffee. The building that I work at has an panoramic elevator which is visible from said sidewalk. I was alone in my nose, just enjoying the silence of the street at 3:07 AM when I hear a noise just like a knocking. Silence for some seconds, and then this fricking noise again. Almost crapping myself after hours of pure silence. I work alone in my office. I looked around but saw nothing. Knock knock again. Holy crap, what the actual frick is this? Is today the day that I'm going to be spooked by a knocking ghost? Knock knock knock, holy crap. So I took the brilliant decision to look to the elevator and there was a fricking person inside knocking on the elevator's glass and WHO fricking ran away when I saw him. Reported it to the site security, ran to the bathroom and had the most earth-shaking fear-induced poop of my life. Graveyard at the gas station Sunday Thursday night. Typical drunks. Vacationers fueling up, morning zombies for their coffers. I think the creepiest was when a guy started to hit on me and ask for my number. He would not take no for an answer and always was there when I came in for my shift. Mind you, I am a woman alone. I was not allowed to have anything to defend myself because it was against company policy, though I had easy access to phone the police. Well, this one particular night he wanted to touch me. I wasn't standing it. My throat started getting hot and before I was about to verbally assault this creep, a regular walked in the door with her hand on the gun. She is my hero and a security forces who stops by to grab lollipops before heading to the field. He left hurriedly and I have never seen him since. I had a clerk in a mini-mart just east of the Colorado River in AZ slip me a note saying don't leave. I asked if she minded me hanging out for a bit cause I'd been driving a long time. Creepy guy minded, then left. Worked at a bulk item store overnight. In the cafe, I was prepping food for an early morning pickup and went to my car on my lunch break. Walked out to find a gaze of raccoons surrounding my car completely. I shined my phone light at them in hopes they would disperse, but all eyes went on me immediately and then started after me as I was fumbling to hold on to the sandwich I had just made. I pounded on the entrance door. The door monitor had walked away to get a soda, and her inevitable waddle back over would have taken too long. I sacrificed my sandwich that night for my freedom. This story has it all. I worked nights in a care home for the elderly, patients with dementia, etc. Found quite a few dead bodies. First one was on my 4th ever shift working there, 2nd ever shift actually working the floor after training, and I had to help wash and dress the body. I was 18. There were many more people who died whilst I worked as a carer. There is really no preparing you for that. I work as a customer support representative for an online marketplace. I mostly work graveyard shifts, but I guess what happened during the night couple of days ago counts as weird to say the least. On this marketplace, users can set up shops and offer services to other users. These services that they offer tend to be very bizarre from time to time, and some of them are scammers who offer bullcrap at high prices. This being said, we had a poor little man contact us in the middle of the night complaining about how he was robbed out of $400. It seemed like it could be an interesting ticket, so I took it and started investigating the order that was associated with it. Turns out that our buyer purchased a satanic ritual to completely change his physical appearance. This includes his height, weight, Pretty much his whole face, and last but not least, his dong size. The seller told him that he will require some personal info, such as his home address, pictures, no contact info, and the buyer delivered without hesitation. The seller delivered the order and the poor buyer accepted it, which means that the order was now marked as complete and the seller got his funds and deleted his account. Who wouldn't? In the end, I was able to refund the buyer and got his funds back, but man was it a blast reading their conversation. The seller was playing him like a fiddle and the buyer just kept on eating the crap this seller served him. The words, "I have none." I was training a new worker, and we got to joking about how you could make a decent horror movie set in our store during the overnight shift. We were getting really into it, coming up with all of these different concepts, and then the power went out. I worked a graveyard shift at a Chevron when I was taking a year off of college. It was around the time the first season of Orange is the New Black came out, because I remember I was watching it to get through the night and one guy came in and said it's a show for girls and he doesn't get why a guy would watch it. That's not what I'm here to say though. During that night, maybe 4 AM, I hear that someone just walked through the door, expecting a trucker or a teenager here for energy drinks. I look towards the door and there is an old couple beelining it to the energy drink section. I wave and wait for them to come to the counter. The woman comes back and asks if I have any Monster coffees in the back. I tell her that we have some in the energy drink section. She says she knows. And right then the husband comes up with all our Monster coffees, every flavor too, and dumps them on the counter. They both crack one open and drink it all without stopping. The woman asks again if we have any more in the back. I go in the back and see we have 3 small pallets of it with 15-20 in each one. I go and tell the couple and the old guy says he will come back and help me carry them. So we lug around 50 coffees to the counter and by the time we finish, the woman has finished another. I'm in shock and wondering if I'm hallucinating or this is a prank because I've been working since 11 AM because someone called in sick. I then ring up all the coffees and it's like $185 of Monster coffees. The woman says this stuff just goes so fast. We do this every 2-3 weeks. So they got all of them paid for and start carrying them to the car. Then they start looking through the store. They both each drink another coffee while searching. I'm standing there watching 2 60-year-olds who aren't extremely fat or skinny chug these coffees like it was the first liquid they had found in the past month. They finally left and I sat there wondering what I was doing with my life. I laughed to the point I reached tears. Why am I working at a gas station at 22 years old? I should be back in college. Next week I gave my 2 weeks notice and am now back in college. Midnight in the inner city near a shanty town. One crazed homeless woman assaulted me and another woman came up and beat the crap out of woman A. Woman B tells woman A that I am her biological brother and to never touch me. Woman B also says to woman A that 11 years ago God came to her and made her an angel, and she should repent or face ruthless judgment as she cast the second rock. I get paid a lot to do a job that has no work to do. I pretty much get paid to survive the night. One of my duties at the mortuary I worked for was nighttime body removals. One night, my partner and I showed up around 2 AM to grab the paperwork for our removal. When we got inside, we both got the feeling like there was someone there, so we walked through the building, checking to make sure everything was secure, and closing all of the doors. This included the casket room. Everyone hated the casket room. It was freezing cold year round. The lights were always uncomfortably dim no matter what maintenance did to try to fix them. And there was this mannequin in the corner in full military dress that just felt wrong. The only people who weren't bothered by the room was the cemetery sales staff. And that's only because they had no souls. So my partner and I don't find anyone. So we lock everything up and head out. We get back an hour later, get our new guest logged in, and decide to get a cup of coffee before leaving. He and I walk toward the kitchen, only to find the casket room door open about 3 feet. It's almost pitch black in there, and I can barely make out the red in the mannequin's uniform. It shouldn't be that close to the door. My partner and I froze for a second. Then I grabbed his wrist and we backed up into the kitchen and straight out the back door. It honestly felt like if we had gotten too close to the casket room door something bad would have happened. Neither of us would ever go near that room again. Even during the day, I could spend time alone in the prep room or crematory no problem, so I'm not easily spooked, but there was something wrong with that room. I work prisoner watch shifts, where basically you make sure the drunks don't throw up on themselves. Anyways, this one girl came in at about 2:30 am and blew a .21 back, so she was out of it for most of the booking. When she was put in the cell she passed out. A couple hours later I look up from my laptop and see her just standing at the door, just staring at me and softly tapping the glass. She then went into this cycle of staring at me, then crying, then laughing. I can't say I've ever been more creeped out than that night. Not really that entertaining, but I'll share. There is a skunk that comes out sometimes when I go outside on breaks and hangs out with me. One of these days he'll probably betray me and spray me, but that's okay, I'll just use that as an excuse to go home early. I went to the washroom, and upon leaving my part of the lab, saw that all our computers had been stolen, which had been there at the start of my shift. They had come in while I was working just feet away. Was so glad I didn't go to the washroom sooner. Oh, I've got one. When I was 18, I briefly worked nights as a care assistant in a nursing home. The building was a very old ex-convent and was pretty spooky at the best of times. There were 3 floors, but I was only ever working on the ground and first floors. One day about 2 weeks in, I was sent up to the top floor to get something. It was my first time up there, and for the first time, it occurred to me how it was that I'd never worked up there before, or seen any patients who lived up there. So I'm walking along the main corridor, which is pretty narrow and twisty. Being a night shift, we keep the lights on emergency settings, very dim and on motion sensors, so that the residents can sleep. Suddenly, at the other end of the corridor I see this dark shape. It looked like the Grim Reaper, with the dark cowl and long robes, and was even holding what appeared to be some kind of scythe. And it was moving slowly toward me. I knew it wasn't a resident, as most of our residents were not ambulatory, and I was pretty sure none of them dressed in dark robes. So I did the logical thing. I turned without even thinking about it and sprinted back down to the first floor, where I managed to convey through panicky gestures that there was some kind of terrifying monster on the top floor. After about 5 minutes my co-workers stopped cracking up and explained my mistake to me. You know how I mentioned that the home used to be a convent? Well, apparently part of the deal was that the remaining nuns, who were all pretty old by now, got to continue living on the top floor, without nursing care, and use the facilities of the home, like cooked meals. And not a single person had thought to mention this to me. If I'd worked days, I would have seen them up and about, but the 8 PM 6 AM night shift at a nursing home is pretty quiet. The shape I had seen was actually an elderly nun, in robes and a head covering, wimple, with a crutch, not a scythe, heading down the corridor to their little chapel as she couldn't sleep, and not, as I had for some reason assumed, the Grim Reaper here to collect one of our residents. I switched off night shifts soon after that. You have been visited by spooky skeleton Halloween doggo. You have a spooky future with lots of frights unless you comment heck off Halloween doggo. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.